right now, okay?
Yeah.
All right, so if you want to introduce yourself to the attendees.
My name is Len Romano, and I serve on the board of the Huning Castle Neighborhood Association.
Great. And I think everybody knows me. If you don't at this point, I'm Vanessa Baca. I'm the manager of the Office of Neighborhood Coordination. So I want to welcome all of our participants that are watching at home. So there's Idalia. Hi, Idalia.
Good morning or good afternoon now.
Either one works. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing good. Nice to see you. Do you know Len Romano? Len, this is Idalia Lechuga-Tena.
Hi.
Hi, good to meet you, Len.
Great. So we're waiting on a few more panel speakers. In the meantime, Idalia, if you wanted to introduce yourself, we have about 28 panelists, 28 attendees watching so far. So for those who don't know you.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Idalia Lechuga-Tena. I am the president of La Mesa Community Improvement Association, which is in the International District. You know, I've been with that association since 2002, very long time.
Great. Len, how long have you been with Huning Castle?
I think I'm on my third term now, and they're 3-year terms. So I've been with Huning Castle Neighborhood Association, I would say 6 or 7 years.
Wow. Okay. Well, I got some good people being part of this here. So
yeah.
I'm waiting on 2 more panelists. In the meantime, I think we should probably go ahead and get started with there is Jeanette.
Let me pull up the questions.
Hi, Jeanette. How are you?
No, I'm good.
Glad you could be part of this. I can't hear you because you're muted. There you are.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Jeanette, I don't know if you know our other panelists. This is Idalia Lechuga-Tena and Len Romano.
I know Len Romano.
Hi,
Okay,
Jeanette.
good.
How are you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing okay.
Good, thank you, good.
Jeanette, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and let our attendees know what neighborhood association you're from for the ones that don't know you?
Okay, Jeanette Baca. I'm the president of the Alamosa Neighborhood Association, which is in the Southwest Mesa. Our organization I co-founded in 1993. So we have been in existence since 1993, and I've been involved since 1993.
Yeah, a lot of good expertise on this panel here. Thank you. I'm waiting for one more panelist, but I think we should go ahead and get started on the panelist questions that I have, just because I know everybody. Len, I know you have to log off at 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start off asking these questions, and then if you all want to answer them just to the best of your ability. These are kind of a general questions, but they're made up of all the questions that I myself got from neighborhood folks about using Zoom. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. What have been the biggest challenges your association has faced with using virtual meetings during the pandemic, and how did you overcome them, and what problems are you still facing?
Well, this is Idalia. Doesn't matter, starts. So, you know, in my neighborhood association, we're a very old neighborhood association. So one of the main problems we've had this year is that a lot of them are older people. They're elderly. So, you know, a few of the board members, they don't have an email, you know, so it's been very difficult to meet, at least in La Mesa, because like I said, a few members don't know how to use an email. So for me to even have a Zoom meeting, it would be almost impossible. And I need the votes, right? In case we need to vote on an item. So that's been the biggest issue, you know, targeting those that, you know, don't use computers. So we haven't had a meeting in a very, very, very long time. I am looking into, you know, how can people maybe just call in, you know, which they can through Zoom. But what in my area, what they prefer is actually, like old school, being in the same room and actually having that interaction and voting and asking a person that's coming to present, because, we have a lot of people that come to present for, permits or, developing in the area. And it's just so much better. The confusion goes down 100% when you actually are in the room, but that we can't do that. So that my challenge is that, how do you teach somebody how to use Zoom?
Idalia, I'm going to interrupt you really quick to introduce Willie Orr. Willie, thanks for joining our panel.
Sure.
Would you mind introducing yourself and letting our attendees know what neighborhood association you're with?
Sure. I'm the president of the Arroyo de Oso North Neighborhood Association, which is essentially bound by Arroyo de Oso Golf Course Academy in Wyoming.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay.
And then Len, what challenges has Huning Castle experienced using Zoom, and how have you been able to overcome them?
Well, I think when the pandemic hit, I think we missed one meeting and didn't know what to do at that point. And then I think it was only one meeting, and then we just forced it. We really made an effort to force it, even though there was resistance to it, and people were not sure about it. And so the first meeting we didn't use Zoom. We used a professional service called GoToMeeting, which I had purchased a professional level version of it on my for my business, and that was a disaster. It only allowed us to have 11 people, and we couldn't even get the whole board members on. I think it only allowed 9 actually, and I think we had 11 who wanted to attend that night. So then we quickly switched to Zoom. I put an alert out to the neighborhood, and I got some neighbor feedback, and they said that if you buy the professional version of Zoom, it works very well for us. And so we have a lot of professionals in our neighborhood who were familiar with it. So I purchased that as for my business, and then I just donate that as part of the neighborhood association. So I run the meetings, the Zoom part of the meetings for the neighborhood association. So the challenges are the same as what Idalia stated. A lot of people were resistant to it because they maybe didn't have a desktop computer at home, or they were not used to doing that and they didn't feel comfortable with it. So we just kept forcing it, really. We are very communicative with email alerts, and so we just educated people and walked them through step by step with alerts on, you click this link. You don't even need a computer. You can just dial in on your home phone if you want to just join the meeting by phone. And we're seeing now attendees going up. We'll have like 25, 26 people attend the meetings now on Zoom, whereas at first it was 11 or 12. So, and we're seeing people attend meetings that never used to show up face to face. And I think the main part of the challenge for this has been just getting people used to a new normal, and that's it. I think that's across the board.
Sure. Jeanette, what have you found with the Alamosa neighborhood in using Zoom?
I think that, excuse me, the problem's the same as getting people to actually do it, to sign in and get there. I think that it's just the same as is trying to get them to a meeting in person. People are, in my neighborhood anyway, are resistant to becoming involved unless they have an immediate problem that's affecting them. And then, there's all the promises of becoming a member and this and that, and then I don't see them again, but that's okay. That's what we're here for, is to take care of any issues that occur. Excuse me. I think that we are still getting the same amount of people. I put it on our Alamosa Facebook page. And if anybody wants to join in, they do. I think that I feel like it's the same amount of people that we have been able to get in person. Last year, I think I had our first Zoom meeting in May. You know, I lost our son in January, and then the pandemic happened in March. So April, I was ready to walk away from everything. But in May, I was like, oh, nobody else is going to do this.
Yeah,
So it turned out well. And,
good.
and you know, I have like our principals from our schools that are nearby, our state legislators, our counselors, our commissioner, you know, all of our APD will always attends, our commander is always there. So all the issues that we usually talk to about anyway is the same that we talk to via Zoom.
Mhm.
My problem is that Zoom is free for 40 minutes,
Mhm.
and after that, it's like, whoop, that's it. And so there's been a few times where they've just been cut off, and we've had to like go back to doing it again. What I thought would be cool would be that the city of Albuquerque, hint, hint, Office of Neighborhood Coordination
Mhm.
would pay for the
Yeah.
extra time.
That has been asked of our office, and if it were up to me personally, I would be more than happy to provide it. Unfortunately, the city has an anti-donation clause that prohibits the city from providing paid services to individuals or groups. The question has definitely been asked. I really truly wish I could
Interesting.
do that, because things are very different now during the pandemic. I agree. Willie, what has been your experience with your neighborhood association in terms of utilizing Zoom?
Well, I have to say, your groups have done many more Zoom meetings than we have. We had our annual meeting last month, which is actually the last 3 years has been fairly well attended in person. I mean, we've had 20, 30 people there, and has been a fairly good turnout. We were hopeful that that we would have a good turnout. In fact, we did not. So, and I think the same issues which you've all talked about, given the difficulty that some people have using Zoom, the unfamiliarity with it, all those kinds of things. But I think we have, you know, a relatively older neighborhood. So we have, as a board, have gotten together on various kinds of platforms. We tried Google one time, but Zoom works the best. And in fact, our treasurer bought a 1-month subscription to Zoom for a lot of people on the assumption we might have a lot, and then just is going to do it for a month out of our budget, and then we'll drop it. So we have financed a larger Zoom thing, since you can do it for a month ourselves. And it'd be nice if the city would do it. That's an odd rule the city has, but if that's the rule, that's the rule. Our big event usually is in the summer, when we try to have a picnic and plan that. Obviously, we did not do that last year, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to get the neighborhood together this year. Hopefully, things will be relaxed somewhat. So we have not been terribly successful with Zoom, but we really didn't. We tried to push the meeting as much as we could, just people didn't show up.
Sure, I understand. So let me get on to the next question that a lot of people wanted to know about. How have you made using virtual meetings not only fun, but useful? And a specific example is, how have you utilized Zoom to handle things like elections of board members and basically making kind of just overall board decisions? Idalia, let me start with you.
Sure. So what I try to do is kind of make it like a social time, like tea time. I call it tea time, and that way we can catch up real quick, and then we can kind of update each other on what's new. And we haven't had elections yet, because like I said, we have that problem where I need to reach out to the other people that don't have a computer. They just don't like computers, period. So but they're super active, right? So I make it fun with tea time, and like social tea time, or social, community, catching up to. So that's what I've done.
Okay. Len, how has Union Castle handled using Zoom for elections?
We've just, again, we've forced the issue so that we all become comfortable with it quicker than many of us were ready to. So anything that we've got to take a vote on, we do it the same way. Instead of saying aye, we just do a count like this. We just raise our hands and do a count like that. And I will say that sometimes when you've got a lot of people on, and this is still something that we're trying to educate people, when you've got a lot of people on at once and you can't view everybody unless you choose the right viewing option. And if you use the view button in my screen, it's in the top right, but if you use the view button and then you select gallery view, then you'll get a view of everybody that's in the meeting. And we've had some complaints about that. So, but for elections, for presentations, anything like that, we've just brought them into the Zoom meeting and we've allotted them a time, whoever's coming in to present or anything. Or when we have a vote, we do the same. We make a motion, we second it, and then we'll have a discussion, and then we'll count votes on Zoom. But we'll just do a count with a manual count with hands. So we're just trying to really keep it all about business. We haven't done any of the creative fun stuff that Idalia talked about as far as tea time and sharing that. What we've done is we've kept the meetings to just real business like, and we brought, again, APD always attend, and Councillor Benton, our city councillor, will sometimes attend, and anybody who wants to make a presentation, but we brief them beforehand. But where we have expanded, and I'll reiterate this because I feel it's been very important for the neighborhood, where we have expanded our efforts is with the email communications. And I'll never send more than one in any 24-hour period, but I've received so many emails from neighbors in the neighborhood who've expressed gratitude that they're getting updates and how they've expressed how these emails are improving their quality of life. And some have even said keeping them sane in this time. I may sometimes put a line of poetry at the bottom, or I'll put a fun fact, and I'll also include real hardline, neighborhood relevant issues too. But it's just keeping, without bombarding them, it's just keeping those lines of communication open and making them feel like they're part of a neighborhood, they're part of a community. We're all part of this community, and you're not alone. And I also want to just take a moment to say how amazing it is, Jeanette, that you continued doing that work after the loss of your son. I think that is just absolutely astounding to me. And my sincere condolences for the loss of Marcos. I know I've got no idea how painful that is. I can only imagine. So I just wanted to say that to you. And you're an inspiration.
Agreed.
Thank you, Lynn.
Willie has,
Mostly in shock and so
yeah.
I still am.
Jeanette, I didn't know. My deepest condolences. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Willie, has your association done any kind of election types of activity using Zoom?
Yeah, we did. We did our election with the small numbers. It was no problem to do a raise hands type thing. I've been on other Zoom calls with other organizations, and there are various, software packages and things you can get where you can actually register votes, polls, and those kinds of things. I don't know how expensive they are, or if they're expensive at all. I don't know if they're free, whatever the systems are. And I can also think that even if you could maybe use the raise hand feature on Zoom as opposed to actually physically raising your hand, use the raise hand function on Zoom to vote would be another way to do it. So you could count it that way. But we did vote. There was a small number, and there wasn't controversial votes either. So it was
Okay. Yeah.
It was fairly straightforward. It wasn't a tough decision.
I know some other neighborhood groups have utilized something called Simply Voting to do their elections, because I know that it can offer the confidentiality type of voting, which is something that I know some neighborhoods have a concern about.
Sure.
But I know that it is a paid service, so it's obviously not an option for everybody.
Right.
Jeanette, has your association had any luck with doing elections via Zoom?
We have not done elections
Okay. Okay.
during
There's
the
a,
pandemic, but we have you know, we're just really happy to see each other, even if it is just on the
oh,
internet.
sure.
As you know, we're our board has been together for a really long time. We lost one of our longtime members last year, but before Christmas, Cecilia Romero, and she had been, I mean, we don't get a lot of people that are willing to serve, and I don't know sure what they think that they're going to have to do, but nevertheless, our group has been together for many years, so we're just happy to be able to see each other and spend some time together and see that we're all well and still standing.
Yeah, exactly. One of the questions that I got in the chat was, what is your advice for monitoring open comments to keep vulgar or inappropriate comments out, or how do you handle potential disturbances or actual disturbances on your virtual meetings? You may or may not be able to see the chat that I can see, Len.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So any thoughts on that? How to handle either disturbances or vulgar language or?
So there's this new thing now that it's like Zoom etiquette. Make sure everybody, you know, at the beginning of each meeting, everybody should mute their phone or mute themselves unless they're going to speak, just because there's always background noise. You never know, your dog barks, you know, whatever it may be. And on it, you know, it's also say, make sure that mute your phones and be respectful towards everyone, no vulgar comments, no negativity. I mean, we're already going through so much that we don't need any more negativity. So it's just like a code of ethics that you read to your neighbor, to your people right before the meeting starts. Just a friendly reminder. That's what I do.
Imagine it's just like having an in-person meeting. You, at the start of the meeting, you kind of do some housekeeping. You let everybody know where the restrooms are. You ask people to mute their phones and to be respectful and to adhere to time limits.
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Just
Len, any thoughts on that?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I'm just answering somebody's comment to me here. That's
Oh,
all.
no, that's okay. We had gotten a question in the chat asking about how recommendations for handling disturbances on virtual meetings, or how to handle if somebody uses inappropriate language or vulgar comments.
Do you mean in the typed comments, or do you mean when somebody's speaking
Both.
out loud?
Both.
Well, it's not something that we've ever had an issue with. You know, we've had some people type comments that are kind of jokey, but in a gossipy way about some of the other people, and so we just completely blank those. We don't acknowledge them, and so we don't encourage them or try to tell them off. You know, we're not here to govern. We're just here to share information. But yeah, I'm not sure what I think we would just we'd probably kick someone out if they started being abusive in that way. As far as a Zoom meeting, there'd be there'd be zero tolerance for it. And I'm speaking on behalf of the board, but without their knowledge of it. But I think that they would all say the same thing.
Jeanette or Willie?
We've never had a problem like that, either
really
in person or Zoom. So
that's good.
Nor have we, and I would probably handle it by muting them. I mean, I think that would be the thing to do. You have the ability as the organizer of the meeting to mute people, and I would just mute them, you know, and then at the end of the meeting, find out who they are and either chat with them afterwards. But no, we haven't had that problem either.
Sure.
And
okay.
I'd be surprised if we would, actually.
Yeah.
It's giving me some ideas, though. I might start acting up in the next one now.
Please invite me to that one, Len. Another question I had gotten prior to the webinar starting was, how do you keep people on track in Zoom meetings, with the concern being that because it is a virtual platform, it is easy for people to go off on tangents, and like that doesn't happen in regular face-to-face meetings. but the virtual platform, how do you handle that if someone tries to sort of take over? I'm guessing it would probably be similar to what we were just talking about, utilizing your mute button or asking people to raise their hands.
Well, that's what's important to have an agenda and, make sure the president keeps on track, because now that, everybody, we're at home, you realize how much you miss or how much the people that say that they're, that they don't like social interactions, you realize that they do. And they're like, oh, so then, they want to chat and catch up. And it's just the same thing, having an agenda, approving the agenda, and kindly reminding people that, if you have something to say, you have 3 minutes, because people's times are valuable. So 3 minutes, sticking to the agenda. And then after everything's done, if people want to socialize after, then, great. But yeah, that's sticking to the agenda and really kind of have a time, like a timekeeper. It's what I do, not for the neighborhood really, but for other board meetings that I've participated in. Sure.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I can speak you need a strong leader, and I have to speak in praise of our president, Harvey Buckhalter, who was a school teacher for high school kids for 50 years in the South Valley. So he's really good, and he doesn't let anybody ramble on it. And you're right, Idalia, when people have been isolated for a long time, they really want to speak a lot. So it takes a good leader to stick to that agenda and to move people along and not let them take too much time, for sure. Mm-hmm. That's really important with Zoom, but you're right. It's a good question, but it's true. Mm-hmm.
Elen, on that point, like in my neighborhood, we had a lot of bullying before. So, those people aren't there anymore. So, but yeah, I mean, it was pretty intense. So actually Zoom, the pandemic helped alleviate a little bit of that bullying, believe it or not. Mm. Now we have new people, coming on board. So that was, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So that's been our experience.
Yeah.
Can I just say that that I try to also, like Adalia said, that try to keep to the agenda and try to keep the 3-minute limit. But also, if I need to get somebody to stop, I just try to tactfully say, we only have a certain amount of time. We're going to need to move on. And usually no one ever has a problem with that. It's just trying to do it tactfully and not say, stop, shut up, and just keep sure. On the agenda.
Yeah.
Can I say something on Jeanette's point? What I do when people, some people raise their hand like physically on Zoom, or they raise the button. Some people still don't know where that raise your hand button is. So what I do is I write down in the way that people are raising their hands. So I write their name to kind of keep track of who raised their hand in order, and then I call on them, and that's really helpful. Just because sometimes people don't see you that you raise your hand, or they don't see and that's been kind of like an etiquette thing that's worked for me.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good to know. Yeah,
that is good information to have. So another question we got from our not our panelists but our attendees is wanting to hear more about people's experiences with time limits, both positive and negative. People are having some challenges finding that he basically said that sweet spot where folks get enough space to speak and the meetings aren't 4 hours long. And I would imagine it goes back to what you said, sticking to your agenda, making sure there are clear guidelines for everybody.
Yep.
Absolutely. And again, go back to who's leading the meeting and are they aware of, the motivation should be, let's try and get this 2-hour meeting done in an hour if we can, and then move it forward as quickly as possible with respect and kindness. Not like Jeanette said, not by telling everybody just stop, but just let's go. Let's move it along now.
To Len's point, what I'm thinking of doing is, how you can share your screen on Zoom. Mm-hmm. And we've drafted, because of our bullying situation in La Mesa, I drafted a code of ethics. So what I would like to do for our next meeting is just as a kind reminder, mute your phone, keep it to 3-minute comment. share the screen and highlight the code of ethics, you know, how everybody can see it, just as a friendly reminder of negativity, bullying, all of that.
So
That's what I'm thinking I'm gonna do.
there is something that I would like to add to this. Only the host of the meeting can share the screen. So this is something that we found very useful, and we've been able to do this in plenty of meetings where if we've got somebody who's presenting and they've got something to share, we've made that person the host temporarily for the time that they want to share their screen. And then we ask them to make us the host back in return. So that's a really great feature with Zoom, but it's only right now, Vanessa, only you can share your screen. But if you made me the host, I could share my screen, and then it could go around.
Well, that's not going to happen, Len. Sorry. So I've been to meetings with you. No, I'm just kidding. That's good. That is very good information to have. It's really good. It's another good option for people to be able to share things like diagrams without having to, without having to worry about, emailing it or something else like that. So that's a really excellent suggestion there. So Jeanette?
I agree with Len, because right now I can just see the person that is speaking. Like right now I can just see you. When I am chairing a meeting, I can see all of the participants, which kind of is helpful.
Yeah. And I can see all of you. It's really kind of cute. It's like the Brady Bunch, except, we're missing one. We're missing one. So, so let me go on to some of the other questions that we got. What suggestions or advice would you offer to other neighborhoods who are not using virtual meetings, or who are, but are having challenges? Specifically, go ahead, Idalia.
Sorry. And this is something I think I'm gonna do, because the people that I talked about Zoom with, they're board members, they just, they're not gonna get it. So in La Mesa, we have a Mesa Verde park. And what I'm thinking of doing probably in March, when it gets a little more warm, and we don't have snowstorms, I want to do a social distance board meeting, neighborhood meeting at the park. And, everybody will bring their chairs and we'll sit, apart, but we'll be together in the same place. And, bring your coffee if we do it on a Saturday morning. But it has to be warm, right? So because of that, I think normally our meetings are the first Tuesday of every month at 6, and it's or in the evening, right? So we probably won't be able to do that socially distanced because it's still cold. So I'm thinking, kind of you're gonna have to, switch it up. So I'm thinking, socially distanced neighborhood association meeting, like on a Saturday morning or something like that. That's what I'm thinking, but I have to let the board know.
Yeah, I know Westgate Heights over in Council District 3 had done that last summer. And I think they said that it was actually pretty successful. They had to have the social distancing, they required masks, but it supposedly went really well. So, that's another idea for having people get together, within the confines of the public health order, keeping groups to 10 or less. But that would be an idea. Is that something you all, other neighborhood folks might consider? Willie, would that be an option for your
Oh,
group?
yeah, no, I think absolutely would be. I mean, I think that, as I said, our big event usually is in the summer, and hopefully by July or maybe early fall, that would work, and that people would feel safe and comfortable coming out. We have a park right near us, Arroyo del Oso. And plus we have a lot of cul-de-sacs in our neighborhood. So that generally works well. I'm sure we will try to do that as we see what happens with the pandemic and how things are moving with that.
Yeah, that's great. Jeanette, any thoughts on that for Alamosa?
Actually, I think that we may get more participation doing it via Zoom, because no one has they can sign in late, if they need to, but they can't say, oh, well, I had to be here, or I couldn't make it because of the weather or whatever reason, I didn't find a babysitter. I think that actually the Zoom meetings have been easier for people to attend.
Mhm.
And I personally don't want to be around people.
right.
Not that I don't like people, but I'm super careful and
Mhm.
I'm still fearful. So because of, age, my health issues, everything. And so I still don't really want to be in a group setting. But like Adalia had mentioned about doing it outdoors, I had thought about that, doing it at Alamosa Park sometime in the summertime, because our meetings are usually always the second Monday of the month and at 6 p.m. So I'm thinking that that possibly will be an option for the weather when it gets warmer and we all have our vaccinations. And
Yeah, hopefully, God willing. Len, has Huning Castle done any kind of outdoor meetings similar to that during the pandemic, or have you just basically stuck to Zoom?
We haven't done any because, you never know who's going to show up without a mask, or who's not going to adhere to the rules, or who's going to make a statement. So we've just tried to avoid that for now. And but one thing I will say about, if there are any neighborhoods who are not having meetings and who want to don't know where to start, I would encourage them wholeheartedly to try immediately to get something going and keep the lines of communication open. So I would recommend that anybody who's on the board at first, on their smartphone, download the Zoom app. Don't just use Zoom on the browser. Download the app on your smartphone, download the app on your desktop or your laptop, and then hold a half an hour meeting just with the board members, just so you can play around and practice how to make someone else the host, and how to do the raise hand feature, or use the gallery view as opposed to the speaker view. All these things will benefit you. And if it is a disaster, if your first couple of meetings are a disaster and neighbors don't manage to get connected, it doesn't matter. They're very forgiving because they know that we're all trying this and we're all doing this. We're all breaking new ground here. So I would just encourage them not to be put off by it or to shy away, but just to jump in and try to do it. And yeah, I think some neighbors are going to want to prefer the Zoom meeting, would prefer to stay with the Zoom meetings going forward. But I know the board, because I put this question to the board at the last meeting. I asked the board, would you want to continue with Zoom meetings when this pandemic is in control, or would you want to get back to face-to-face? And immediately people said face-to-face. We want to connect with people again. So
sure. And that actually leads to the next question that I was going to ask, which is, do you plan to continue using virtual meetings after the public health order is lifted? And if you do continue to use them, would you consider them to be a type of a recruitment tool for new members or an incentive for former members to start attending again?
I think they're here to stay. But I don't know how in what capacity. So yes, they're here to stay. Yes, we'll continue to use them, but maybe not for every monthly meeting, certainly not for the annual meeting. If people can get together, they're going to want to get together, I think. But all those things you said, Vanessa, I think are great, like recruitment, interviewing, board members who want to just meet and discuss something. Fantastic for that.
Oh, go ahead.
No, look, go ahead, Idalia, sorry.
So one thing that the Mesa did is our neighborhood was by Lomas and Louisiana and Central, and we have a lot of dealerships that are in our neighborhood. And what we did during the pandemic is we used the pandemic to recruit people by, well, let me back up. Garcia Honda gave us a lot of toilet paper to distribute to the neighborhood, to the neighbors. And what we did is, in front of my parents' house, because my parents live in La Mesa too. What we did is we set up a little station, and then I emailed everybody who needed toilet paper And you would give them like 3-4 rolls. When it was, really bad, there was no toilet paper anywhere. So we did that, and then we bagged them in, little plastic bags, and we distributed throughout the neighborhood. And we got a bunch of people that wanted to join La Mesa with that. So we were even on the news. Anyway, so we used that, and that was helpful. In my case, I think we're still going to use probably in-person meetings. Whatever the board wants, right? But I do agree with a couple of other members that I've spoken to that they'll attend more. We'll have a higher attendance if we use Zoom, because all you have to do is, go on your phone and then just click a link. So we'll have to see that.
Yep, I agree.
And so I've gotten a question from one of the audience members. Is it possible to do a hybrid Zoom and in-person meeting, which kind of ties in with what we're talking about now? Has anyone attempted that, and how did it turn out?
I haven't.
No?
Well, if you listen to the state legislature, that's what they're doing all the time. So, no, I've not tried it.
Okay.
But you know what I've heard, and this is from other neighborhood associations too. People do want to know, now that everything's more in computer and Zoom, if there is like a schedule that maybe the Office of Neighborhood Coordination can keep, or how to just get more information out better. Because I use Nextdoor. Nextdoor is very helpful, but also kind of like another neighborhood association, Glenwood Hills. They want to kind of have like a go-to place or a calendar or website where there's events that they can look they can look up, something more practical. They were just saying something like that.
Yeah, and our office had been in the process of putting together a public-facing calendar of all neighborhood association meetings. Then COVID struck, and people either were stopped having meetings, or having meetings on a very abbreviated basis. We're having them via Zoom and didn't send the information my way. And so we decided it was probably not a good idea to continue publishing that information in the weekly e-news until people were able to have meetings face-to-face on a regular basis in a set location. So I think that's a fantastic idea, and it's definitely something that's on my project list. There's challenges involved in it when people are doing virtual meetings or are not meeting at all. So, but once people are able to have face-to-face meetings again, that's going to be one of the first things that I work on. So that's an excellent idea. We've tried utilizing Nextdoor. It's not a good tool for government agencies in the sense that we can't, it's really designed for residents.
Right.
Like, I can't see stuff citywide. I can post things and send it out to a large audience citywide, but I myself cannot see specific neighborhood areas. So I can't respond to comments or questions or issues in specific areas. So that's the drawback for me. So, but it's a great tool for you all.
Can I say, Vanessa, I really enjoy the information that you send out weekly that has a lot of information on it. I've told you I share several of your articles on our Facebook page. And so a lot of people from our area get to read information that I believe that they would be interested in. And so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. And as always, if any of your neighborhoods have information they want shared with the larger city audience, please send that information my way. I'm always happy to share it. So
Vanessa, am I on that mailing list?
I believe you are, but I can double check after we're done with the webinar and confirm that. Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And then
I'll look at my junk and make sure it doesn't end up there too.
And it does sometimes end up in spam or junk mail for whatever reason. So I advise people just to check there first. But yes, if you're not getting it, let me know and I'll make sure that you are. So
very good. Thank you.
Of course. I did get another question asking about the difference between Zoom webinar and Zoom meeting formats. So Zoom webinar, you have to have a paid plan, and it's one of the higher tiers. So that's how webinars work. They're beneficial. This is my first time doing a webinar. I have to say I really like the format. I don't know about everybody else, but it's very useful in terms of wanting to present information to a very large audience. So I found it useful. Have any of you utilized the webinar function?
Not in neighborhood. I've used it in other settings, but not in neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Len or Jeanette or Idalia?
I'm sorry.
I was just wondering if any of you had utilized the webinar function on Zoom.
I personally have not. I've attended a few webinars, but I've not put one on myself.
Okay. Okay, excellent. So that's pretty much the gist of all the questions from the participants. If we didn't get to your question, feel free to type it in the chat and I'll be happy to ask. But in the meantime, do my panelists have any best practices, little last minute ideas, suggestion, tips, tricks to make your meetings either more useful, a little bit more fun, or just to make them effective?
Well, I want to thank Vanessa just real quick for putting this together. I learned a few things today, so thank you all, and thank you to the panelists. And I can't see who's joining us, but thank you for joining us. And I'm reading the chats, and I'm learning from you all. And also, thank you for expanding the deadline to July for our report, because we still haven't met.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So that really is helpful.
And if the public health order is still in effect, probably I would say in May, I'll send out another notice to the neighborhoods extending that waiver of annual meetings. So I like to give people a good couple of months to plan ahead. So
Thank you.
I keep you all in the loop. I know Bernalillo County is planning a training on Google Meetings. I don't know a lot about Google Meetings, but I understand they have more free services than Zoom does. So that once they have that training set up, I will share it in the weekly e-news, and it's open to all city neighborhood associations because we're all within the county boundaries. So that might be another option for people to utilize outside of Zoom, because I understand the cost can be prohibitive for some people, which I understand that's a difficulty, and so that might be something else to consider. So just like I said, keep that in mind, and I'll let you all know. And if I'm able to get any kind of possible funding help with these neighborhood virtual meetings, I'll definitely let you know. I'm gonna look some more into it. So, as I don't want to have Jeanette yelling at me. So,
in case you have extra funding, we would appreciate some masks to give to our neighbors. Like Office of Neighbor Coordination. If you have city masks.
Oh, I don't have any city masks, but I know the mayor's office does. I'll see if maybe they can.
Can I just go back to something that one of the attendees asked when I don't think we really answered it, but they asked, is it easy to do a hybrid meeting, Zoom and in person? And yes, it's very easy. All that would require is for the people who are running the in-person meeting is to bring a laptop that's got the Zoom app on it, and then beforehand send out a link to that Zoom meeting, and then anybody could just watch the meeting take place. They might not be able to comment or anything like that because people holding the meeting probably wouldn't, unless there was one person who was designated to operate the laptop and answer those questions. But
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Patricia Wilson also gave a good suggestion to make them more fun, and that is to use cat filters. I don't know if you've seen that video going around where that lawyer couldn't get the filter off his. So we could do that next time, Vanessa. We could all have.
I think everybody should start doing that for all of their meetings, even when we're meeting face to face. Wear a cat mask. I mean, come on, got to make it fun. I did get an FYI from a participant that says Google Meet is free for up to 100 participants with a maximum meeting time of 1 hour, and it also includes polling. So.
Yeah, but we tried the Google meeting one time. It didn't work. Now, it may have been we were incompetent, but which is also perfectly possible. But it didn't work very well for us.
So we've used, not for the neighborhood, but for my other boards, we've used Google Meet. But the problem with that is that everybody has to have a Google account, like a Google Gmail. not everybody has it, and that was a problem.
Yeah. I think that's the thing about any kind of virtual platform is there's always going to be some sort of a drawback to it. There's no such thing as a perfect virtual meeting platform. So, well, I think that is it, unless anybody has had any questions and I missed. But if we did not get to your question, feel free to send them to me via email and I will make sure that they get answered. Let me type my email address in the chat in case anybody doesn't have it.
So just a point of clarification. So I know that, neighborhoods need funding. Is there any there's help for businesses? Is there any help for neighborhood associations? Because I know that we haven't had our meeting, we haven't collected our dues this year yet, or last year. So, is there any help that the city is providing with anything, maybe to I don't know, for recruitment? Maybe they can, help us for neighborhood associations, print some mailers that they can help us with, or any type of help just to keep our neighborhoods, meetings going, or keep people involved. Any type of help. I know it's anti-donation, but it's not really anti-donation. It's part of City of Albuquerque.
That's something that I've made some inquiries about, and I don't have a clear answer for you right now, unfortunately, but it's just something that I'll definitely follow up on.
Awesome.
I know Bernalillo County does have a neighborhood grant program, and all of the neighborhood associations in the city are eligible to apply for it because, again, all of our associations are within the county boundaries. So I'm happy to get you some information on that. I believe I'm not sure when they start accepting applications, and I don't know what the criteria is. Like I had actually asked Bernalillo County if their grant program could be expanded to include things like neighborhood Zoom licenses, and you run up against the same anti-donation issue. So, and not being an attorney, I'm not qualified to speak on what that is, but I definitely have made some inquiries about potential funding to help our neighborhoods going forward as well. So I will definitely stay on top of that, Idalia, and I'll get back to you on that.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Len?
Yeah, I've got something I'd like to share that our neighborhood does that is a moneymaker for our neighborhood association, and it enables us to accumulate more money and keep it in the bank for things whenever things come up. So we have a volunteer in the neighborhood. We create 4 printed newsletters per year. And in the newsletter, some things are consistent. There's always a president's letter. And then there's always information on how to join the neighborhood association, how much it costs, and where to send your check. But then there's always 2 pages at the back of it that we call around to local businesses and ask if they want to place ads. And so we've got it to a point where the advertising pays for more than covers the printing costs. And then we have a board member. Each one of the board members has a route in the neighborhood where we hand deliver to every single house in the neighborhood 4 times a year these newsletters, whether they're a neighborhood association member or not. Even if they've never paid dues, they still get a neighborhood newsletter. And that's our promise to the advertisers as well, is that their ads are going to be seen by everybody in the neighborhood. And we've never had an advertiser, we've been doing this for years and years, and we've never had an advertiser drop out. Every time a new issue is due, they always want to do it because it's so cheap for them, and it's a guaranteed audience. So it's local companies like, Escuela del Sol always advertise, Duran's will advertise, all the businesses around here, Seasons, restaurant advertisers. So, they're all businesses within walking distance, and it makes money for us. Everybody else is a volunteer. We're all volunteers. We deliver them volunteer. The person who typesets it and lays it out and sends it to the printer volunteers. So you've got to have some of that involved, but then the money that comes in goes straight into the neighborhood association. And if we want to donate some of that money, if we want to take 10% of that money that's in the neighborhood association and donate it to a social issue that's happening in the neighborhood, then we can do that. Or if we need to buy vests, neon vests for our neighborhood patrol, we're also volunteers, we'll buy them vests. So they can always come to the neighborhood association and ask if we can spend some money. You know, we're as long as we've got money in the bank, then we can use it to do good with it, you know. And so the newsletter's a good little money earner for us.
Len, I had gotten some chat questions asking how much do you charge for ads? If you don't mind us answering, how many households do you hand deliver to? And if people can find your newsletter online?
Well, no, it's not online. 420 houses get the newsletter, and it's only houses in the Union Castle neighborhood. And I don't know what we charge for ads specifically because I don't do that. I can find out, and but I don't do that. But it's not expensive. The businesses never ever say, "Wow, that's a lot." They always, you know, if they're used to paying for advertising in any other publications, this is a steal for them. And then we also get it printed locally with a local printer, and it's printed very, you know, cost effectively. We're all doing it in black. It's only black and white, and there's no staples. It's just folded in. Oh no, it is stapled, and then we just hand deliver it, and it's a huge success. People always, especially people who move to the neighborhood, they're the ones who comment and say, "I can't believe we get a newsletter that keeps us all updated." They're always thrilled to receive it, and it keeps us all connected. So it's a big thing.
Yeah.
You got to have the volunteers, you know. You've got to have people who are willing to put some time and energy in and make their neighborhood better. That's what we're all doing right now, right? That's what we're trying to do.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
Can I add something to this?
Please.
For about 20 years, we have done a newsletter, and we as a board hand delivered, and we have about 1,200 homes within our boundaries. And so in the newsletter, because we didn't have the money to actually mail them to each place, we hand delivered, which got to be a problem because it's hard, and we're all getting older, and you know, the whole thing. But in the newsletter, I would include information that if a business became a member, they could include their little calling card on the newsletter, and we got a few businesses to do that. But we stopped doing the newsletters last year when the pandemic started. So now I just put all the information that I would originally put in the newsletter on our Facebook page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Facebook's a good tool. Another comment down here says they usually get their local credit union or some smaller businesses. And I know that's something that other neighborhood associations have done, is they've actively gone and worked with smaller locally owned businesses to see if they'd be willing to contribute, you know, to the newsletter or run an ad. And they've had, you know, pretty high levels of success doing that. So that's just another thought. So.
Good.
All right. Any last comments, thoughts, suggestions, ideas, jokes?
Maybe a helpful point. I serve another nonprofit, and what Staples does is when if you're going to print, you tell them that you are, you know, volunteer for a nonprofit, and they give you a huge discount.
Oh, wow. That's good to know.
Staples.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Very
Thank
good
you.
information, Idalia. Well, I want to thank all of my wonderful panelists, Len Romano, Idalia Lechugatana, Jeanette Baca, Willie Orr. You guys are fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy, but it was great. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get to do this again soon.
It was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Pleasure meeting you all.
Bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.